Okay, thank you.
And well, look, also let me show you how I've set up here. I hope this doesn't give me a hard time here with a panoramic view of my studio there, of my office. See how I'm set up? I've got the paper here is vertical,
Yeah,
so don't have it tilted. If you have a drafting table, make sure that it's vertical. If like this, if it's tilted, it gets distorted. See what happens?
yeah,
It has to be flat. Because this method is about accuracy. So like if you're just even slightly, it starts to get distorted. And then when you pick it up, it looks too small from up here and very big from here. So this is what I somehow like position yourself so that you're drawing vertically. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to show you that, and now I can switch the cameras here. Like I mentioned, I'm gonna be like the whole length of the paper is 24 inches. So let's say this here is like this half here is this it's half, so like 12 inches where I'm gonna make the drawing. It's like 12 inches wide but like 18 tall.
Is it
I'm
on
gonna
the white paper or the newsprint?
use the drawing paper because the newsprint is we're gonna do a lot of drawing, a lot of erasing and redrawing. So you want to have a paper that is a little bit thick. It doesn't have to be super thick, but the newsprint is not gonna hold up to the erasing. So you need, just uh, like a sketch pad or a drawing pad. The newsprint is good, later on we'll use newsprint, but it's right now you need a sketch pad or sketch pad quality paper or just regular drawing paper. And I'm gonna use these ebony pencils, but I would recommend that you guys use a 2B graphite pencil, something like this. So you can make up the number there, 2B. And I'm using this because it makes a darker mark so that you guys can see it better. But I find it that if the student start with a dark pencil, their shading will get very dark very quickly, or their marks will get very dark, and then they'll have a hard time erasing. That's why I recommend you use a 2B. The ebony is like a 6B or like an 8B pencil. But this is so you guys can see it more clearly. And let's see. Now, as I start this, this is, like I said, the block in method. So what I'm gonna do, let me lower this a little bit. Okay. And when you draw, like I've mentioned this before, you'll get into the habit of drawing from your from your shoulder, and I'm like at arm's length from my paper. And this method, you know, it has, I posted these two images, right? It's like step one and then like step two, right? But there's a step missing in this process, which is the envelope. And the envelope is the shape, the flat two-dimensional shape that is going to encompass or contain this whole drawing. And this is going to be like the envelope. Let me draw it on this here with some dry erase. The envelope. You know, you have to look at this and you have to decide, how can I simplify this into just a big flat shape? So this, you would do something like this, like see that right there, and then this here. And see, they're all straight lines. See that? That right there is the envelope. Right? See that? And I think on the definition that you copied, it says the block-in or the envelope is the simplified two-dimensional shape of the model. In this case, the model is this hand. You know, this hand that is, I believe, is holding a breast. So that this is the first stage of the drawing. That is what comes before this stage here. And this envelope shape is made up usually about five lines. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you know, try and get this into your mind. Like, I only have 5 lines to make this flat shape that describes the flat, simplified two-dimensional shape of the model. So that's what I'm gonna do. I would recommend that you draw along with me and sketch. You know, sketch your lines. And another thing you might want to do is to find these lines that describe. You can do this like what I'm doing. I mean, of course, now I've got the lines there, right, drawn. But you can do this to try and figure out what's going on. And then you can take your pencil, you know, hold it, you know, straight vertically, and then you can tilt it to find the exact angle here. And then you bring it over, and then you just follow through with it. And then you're like, well, what about this angle? Well, again, you flip your hand over slowly until you match that angle and you bring it over. And then you follow through. And it takes a little bit of effort, you know, to do this. And then, okay, what about this? Okay, you know, again, you tilt it over, you bring it over. So that's the envelope right there. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's made up of five different line segments. And so you've got the envelope, and now from this stage, we'll move on to into blocking in. And so we're not quite ready to jump to this stage quite quite yet. We have to wait a little bit. And now, I mean, these are long sweeping brush strokes or pencil strokes. So let me just read some of the definition here. It is as if the three-dimensional model, in this case the hand, that we see posing has been photocopied, cut out, and pasted onto a surface of the paper. It is constructed of line segments that connect points located along the outline of the figure to form an irregular angular geometric shape. It is intended to help us in seeing the actual shape of the model, to move us away from past inclinations and ideas that prevent us from seeing, much less drawing the actual model. See, so this, if in the past you've done exercises from drawing on the right side of the brain, it's similar to that, like that. That book talks about that people have a hard time drawing because in their minds throughout their lifetime, they've developed symbols for what they're drawing. For example, like, let me see if I can draw it here. Like an eye, like, the eye, like that almond shape. See, that's not what the eye looks like, but that's the symbol for the eye, or like, the symbol for the, for the nose.
Sir, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question about the assignment. Do you want us to take pictures of each process step? Like we take a picture of the blocking process, then the rough outline, and then the shading?
Yeah, so that I know that you're following the process, because I'm sure some of you are already like, well, this is very simple. I won best of show at the livestock show 3 years ago, and I can draw really well. So this is very simple. So I'm just gonna go in here and draw it and make a beautiful drawing. So that I know that you're following this method. Yeah, you have to photograph all the stages that I'm going to go through right now. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. I'll take a picture right now.
What and like we're probably just gonna do this drawing today, and then I'm going to assign you the remainder of those drawings. Maybe not all of them, maybe 2 or 3 that you have to have ready for the next time we meet. And those you can photograph. Make sure you photograph those. I mean, I'm just kind of getting you started on this. So another way to think about this also, like, this is a piece of paper, this here, a piece of paper, and I want to make it look more like this, but I only have scissors. So I'm going to cut into this with the scissor, and I'm going to, you see the contour, it's rounded, right? So you have to force yourself to simplify the contour into straight lines. See there? You see that? So I would, I'm imagining that this is like a scissor that I'm cutting in here. So I'm just making a straight cut and then going out here. So I cut that shape, just like I cut that out. And now this dry erases. All these little things kind of make it a little difficult, but okay. So now I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. So I'm gonna break that curve into this line segment. There's a curve here, but I'm gonna break it into 3. So I'll do this. 1, 2, 3. And then I can chip away. I mean, those are the big chunks. Also, you can think of it like a stone, like if you read about carving, sculptures, carving a piece of marble. You think of this like a stone, and you're chipping away at the stone to reveal the form within the stone. And then I can chip out this little shape here, and then this one as well. So I'm like cutting, cutting, or like chipping away with my hammer and my chisel. Do that. And so this is very important here. This, because I have forgotten about all this nice detail in here. And see, when you have the model in front of you and the model's naked and they have all this hair and they have all these muscles, you're gonna be overwhelmed with all this detail, all this information. And so you have to find a way to break, to simplify it, so that it's not as overwhelming. And that's what this method also helps you in doing. Like I have totally ignored all the nice shading, the knuckles. I'm just looking at the flat shape. That's what I have right here. So, you would be taking pictures, like as when you do your drawings, take pictures of every stage. Now, it usually happens that there's some inaccuracies. So I'm looking. I think I drew this too low. I think this should be higher. But I'm happy with the envelope, that first shape. But now I'm going to erase. And I erased lightly, so I have the ghost image to help me guide me onto the next stage. But also, I can make corrections that I need to make. And like I said, I can you see, like here now, this is one line segment, right? This here's one line segment, but here I see that it does this to the wrist, and then the hand here. So I can do this, and then I can do it. So again, it's like I cut another little portion out of there. And I think maybe I made this also too sharp, so I can. And here I have now I can cut another piece and another piece here as well. I can maybe do this and then do this here. And then I see over here I can do that. And I'm trying really hard not to look at those fingers. And I'm just looking at the outside shape. before I want to go back up here. I think this is more interesting. So there's another angle I can throw in here. You know, this here. And like I had said, I can do this, make some corrections here. And I'm just enjoying looking at the whole contour. You see, now look here, and what does the line, if I draw, if I imagine a line going across horizontally, you know, like, okay, that's here, that's there. But see, I am fighting my instinct to make a curve here. You know, this nice curve, I have broken it up already into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different lines. And this will give your contours to your drawings a lot more information. And I might be off. I might be really off. I don't know until I start putting in those fingers on there. And this is this curve. So I'm doing this and then this. And I'm realizing that I have to go beyond the boundaries of the envelope. So even though you try and find the envelope and make it very accurate, doesn't mean that you have to stay within it. You can make the adjustments that you need. Okay, so I like how that's looking. You know, but I want to erase again because I'm gonna continue to cut away at it until it is more and more accurate. Now, before I keep going on this drawing, I want to show you. I made a video. It is a time lapse video where I do a whole cast drawing that we'll be doing later. Another one of these drawings from the Bargue book, just to show you how many times I erase. Let me go here and show you on. And as I show you this, keep in mind that the amount of times that I erase it should be like a at the most a 2-minute video. Okay, let me switch. Okay, this one right here. Keep in mind how many times I erase. And every time it keeps getting more and more accurate. And I'm not doing any curves. It's all straight lines. You have to keep this in mind as you're doing this method. Keep it all with straight lines. I don't want to see any curves. See, I erased it. I'm almost done with it. I erased it. And this shading is like what is on those notes, the shadow shape.
Sir, were you using a live model for this drawing?
Say that again.
Were you using a live model for this one, for this drawing, or was it a photo?
It's a it's another one of these drawings from the book, and I will.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See here, I'm just finishing with shading, but keep that in mind here. Now, if you want to see these videos, it's on I have my YouTube. You saw my videos I make for my painting class. So it just, like Rigoberto Gonzalez, or I'll put a link to it if you guys. I'll put a link to it on the announcements. Okay, let me go back over here. Now you can see this, right? You can see that I went back to the drawing.
Yes.
All right. So I've already erased and drawn this a bunch of times. So I think I can start to go into the details here a little bit. But again, as I progress in here, I want to continue with this analysis of the flat sheet. See, now I can try and find that connection. And then there's that shadow right there. So you have to think about this method as an exercise. It's like let's say that let's take some the example of an athlete. Say an athlete that's very accomplished, LeBron James, someone like that. To get to be that good, I'm sure he still practices, free throws every day, I don't know how many times a day. I'm sure he doesn't miss any of them, right? Because he's under pressure, he wins and he scores, he makes those free throws. But still, he practices every day. This is the same thing. So you're like, I can probably do this, very quickly, following this way that I already know how to draw. But if you take the time to do these exercises, it's just gonna make your drawings make you better at drawing. So I think that's kind of looking okay. Maybe a little wide here, but I'm gonna hold off. And see, then again I can cut in here. This shape. And I recommend that you get this book. I mean, I'm giving it to you, you know, the PDF, but there's of course no substitute for the actual book. And see, my line work here is very sketchy. I mean, I see how many times I draw these lines. And I'm just, you know, focusing, trying to make this as accurate as I can. I'm gonna venture out onto the contour and make it a little bit more accurate. I think, like I was saying, this might look a little wide. See, I'm trying to bring it in more so that it's more accurate. And you know, this way of drawing it has gotten me out of some difficult situation when I'm painting. Like, you know, when I'm painting, when I started painting and something's not looking right, I'm like, I gotta take a step back and I try and see the model or the, you know, whatever part of the painting I'm working. Now, you can do this with a still life. You can do this with an apple or a pear or like with a tree. We're using a hand and we're gonna use this for the figure. But you can use this method on anything. So I think I went too high on that right there. And see, it does this 1, 2, and 3. And I'm trying not to worry too much about the shadow, just again, just focusing on that simple shape. And now I can, see, I'm thinking like I can go in here and do this finger. Because I had done this boundary, but now I can come out of that boundary. And now I've got too many lines on here, so I want to erase again. And I keep emphasizing this erasing and redrawing because another problem that I would notice with the intermediate drawing students is that they would start a drawing, let's, you know, and you know, they would make a few lines within the first 30 seconds of the pose. And they would stick with those lines even if they were not in the right place. And I would keep telling them, like, you have to erase, you have to draw and erase and redraw. And it was always a challenge for them to go back and erase after they spend like 5 minutes developing the drawing. So this is to get into that habit of like not getting attached to your drawing. Like if you have to erase something, you have to erase it because it doesn't look right. And see now I think I can start to go in here to all these details here. There's different ways you can go into this drawing.
Sir, it's very hard to see like your drawing. It looks really light. I don't know, maybe it's my computer.
Right now I erased it, but I'm
Okay.
gonna. What about like a minute ago? Was it still very light?
It's a bit light, but again, maybe it might be my computer.
Because I had it darker. How about that? Like, can you see that?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've been drawing and erasing and redrawing. So I'm going to move into this stage, simplifying the inside here of these three fingers. If I can, I'll put this one here. This image should also be available to you. And I mean, I erased it, but I still have some kind of a ghost of the drawing here. How about this? Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe because it is light, and if you guys have a hard time seeing this, I can switch to charcoal, but this. I prefer graphite. So there, I think this is coming along here. I had taken this a little bit further than this step, but I think this can help me make some corrections here. This. There's a shadow here. So there. It's like I got to this day now. I can take it further. I'm gonna go back to this other one here. Let me get rid of some of this dry erase. So you saw I started with very long line segments and progressively getting shorter and shorter. And it also pushes the idea of working, general to specific, like, I don't know if sculpture class or ceramics class, they push these ideas also. It's like in ceramics, before you do the decoration on the vessel, you've got to make, first you got to make the general shape. So you always got to work general to specific. Just fix this. And I'm gonna go around the contour, trying to make it more accurate. And fighting that instinct to curve the lines. I've already done this finger a little bit. And I think at this point I can add a little bit of that shadow shape. You want to become familiar with that term. The shadow shape is made up of the form shadow, the cast shadow, and the reflection. And it's a way of organizing your light mask and shadow mask so that the drawing looks more organized and more structured. And you have to enjoy the process. Like I enjoy doing this. It just makes me really observe this drawing. And last semesters I would do is I would discover certain things, certain patterns on the drawings that I never noticed before. See, like this, here, of course, you've got this finger, right? But try and think of it as just the shape of the shadow and the shape of the light mask here. And you want to make the distinction between form and shape. The main distinction there is that shape is flat or two-dimensional and form is three-dimensional. What are the three dimensions? Can somebody tell me? Or what are the two dimensions?
Length and width,
Okay, and then what's the third one?
depth, I think.
Depth, yeah, exactly. Of course, here we just have the illusion of depth. But see, again, I'm cutting it, cutting it. Like keep thinking you're cutting. Think that you have a blade or scissors, not that you have a pencil. And I keep doing this, and eventually the drawing and it just falls into place. The accuracy, the curving of the lines. Eventually, from doing so many straight line segments at different angles, you end up with a curve. And with every erasing and redrawing, it has to become more accurate. Now, let's say I'll assign you like 2 or 3 drawings that you're gonna do between today and the next time we meet, and you'll post them on your blog and on Blackboard, and we'll talk about them. But you want to start to think about and be able to explain what's wrong with it, because if you show me your drawings, I can tell you like, okay, that finger looks too big, or when we do a portrait, the nose looks like it's out of place, or the eyes, there's too much distance between the eyes. But I want you to tell me what's wrong with it. I want you to be able to see what is wrong with it. And not only that, but then be willing and able to make those corrections. So let me sharpen my pencil a little bit. Remember, you need this, just the sandpaper block. So you end up with a nice, sharp drawing instrument. So I'm going to give this another go here. See, when I started, I was just drawing from my shoulder, making long strokes. But see, now I'm getting more into my fingers, shorter strokes that describe more precise details. It's almost like a challenge of into how many line segments can I break up that curve. And as we're working on this hand, think of the way that I simplified it. People always have a hard time drawing hands, and by focusing on this simplified flat shape, it helps in breaking up this very complex, structure, which is the hand. I can put in the shadow, the shape of the shadow. See, and there, like I drew the actual finger, not so much the shadow, because I needed to see how that was going to look. Okay. Now emphasize the shape here. You see how slowly and meticulously I'm going. See, I think I can go a little bit lower here. See this? If I come over, I can actually go even further. See, I feel I'm gonna describe the shadow, the shadow shape. See, I'm thinking this here can be a little bit lower. So my initial envelope was not correct. And I'm constantly trying to revise it and improve on it, improving on this shape as well. And see there, I pretty much grouped the whole shadows together. I just have a faint outline there of the finger. Do you guys have any comments, questions so far?
I really like this.
Yeah, I did. And you'll see it when we start shading a little bit. At times, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like sculpture, how you have a block that you keep knocking into and shaping something out, except you have a very general idea of what you're going for because you have the reference here. So yeah, it's a lot like what I did in sculpture class. So this is pretty interesting. It's a different way of doing something that I've done for a long time. So and it also makes it easier.
Yeah, it's you'll see if you stick with it and keep perfecting it, it's makes your drawing so much better. I'll show you. See, I think I got too big there. Now I think up here I can trim some of this. I've got this other piece here. I'll post this also, but look, you see this drawing? Looks like a nice drawing of the model, right? And if I see what it says there at the bottom, the excessively soft style. And this is how many people draw the figure, because we all have a body and the skin is soft. And we end up making very uh, curvy, soft looking figures like this one. And it has this other diagram that simplified into lines, like this line here, this very nice, elegant line, contrasting with this one that is more broken up and more angular. This has more structure to it. This is like those Russian academic drawings, they follow this example. This is what I, you know, trying to get you guys to maybe move away from this way of drawing into a more solid, more uh, architectural type of drawing. Uh, in the example that I showed you of the Russian academic drawing that I had drawn, that type of drawing is it's a type of structural drawing because I was constructing the figure from geometric blocks, and you can get carried away with that method, and then it's you got to find the balance between the two methods of drawing. But I think this kind of way of drawing is not taught enough or emphasized enough. So we're trying to move away from the exceedingly soft style. Still not happy with this part here. And look, I don't know if you can, let me zoom in. I'll start moving into the shading pretty quickly here, pretty soon here. Move this. Look here. I think now it's more accurate. But look how many times I moved it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is what I want to see in your drawings, that you're constantly trying to revise and correct it. And I would tell this, from years of teaching this, I would tell students, draw it, erase it, redraw it, erase it. And a lot of times students would ask me like, well, how do you do that? And I would try and explain it out with this, this way here of teaching online and you being so close. I can't explain it any better like this. Like how many times have I redrawn this? And somebody just gonna guess. Not just that area, but the whole thing. A whole bunch of times, right? I've been correcting this. Now, and see now, I'm not making this up. I've not done this. I've not done any, it's all straight lines. And now it's starting to look like there's a curve. So you have to think of like you have like how many straight lines would it take to make this circle? See? And I mean, I drew it like pretty much with one continuous line, but in line segments, like 1, 2. So that's kind of like the principle that I'm following here. Now, if I think some of you mentioned like you had drawing at what is it, STC or in Brownsville. I know Professor Ransom, he teaches this method, but I don't know how much in depth he goes with it. So this tells me I have to pick this up a little bit here. I'll bring this out more. Oh, got the nail. Fingernail. I want to start shading this. See this shadow shape? I gotta correct it as well. Okay, so I like how this looks, and so, simplified it, we simplified it to the envelope, and then simplified it to the contour. And now we're gonna start shading, and I've separated light and shadow. And the way you want to progress in this method of shading is you want to consolidate all these values here. This is form shadow. Form shadow is the shadow that falls on the object. I'm gonna try and keep it as even and as flat as I can. And see this portion, this is the cast shadow here. It's the shadow being cast by the object. And you can start to see how nicely it organizes itself here. See, I'm forgetting the reflected lights. So reflected lights, form shadow, cast shadow, they all become one value. And it's, again, this is like a positive, negative shape. The positive shape is the light, the negative shape is the shadow.
What grade pencil are you using for the shading? The 2B?
I'm using an ebony pencil, but just so that you guys can see it, But you should be using a 2B.
The 2B. Okay.
2B. Because otherwise your shading will get too dark too quickly. This dimple. And I like to blend my shading. I like to use a brush. I mean, I'll go back over this with more value, but I don't like to use a stump. The stump, or if you use your finger, you might get your drawing all greasy. So we have, just like the natural grease on our fingers. In the stump, it'll burnish the tooth of the paper. I feel like a brush is a lot more soft, so it won't damage the paper. So I'm gonna go over this, over it again, try to make it nice and flat and even. Now, this kind of lighting only happens in real life if you only have one light source. Even your living space, like if you look in the mirror and you have two lights on the ceiling, you won't see this definition of light and shadow. But once you learn this, and I remember once I learned this, and if you're drawing under any kind of lighting, this makes you aware of organizing your lights and shadows, and it just adds a lot of structure to your drawing. It kind of tells the viewer that the artist knows what's happening with the drawing. And in regards to shading, see if I do this, I'm not really applying a lot of pressure to the pencil. I'm just layering more and more layers of graphite. Eventually, it gets pretty dark. See that? But look, let me find a spot. If I press, like right here, I'm pressing really hard. And look, when it comes time to erase, see that comes out pretty easily. And see here, because I incised, I damaged the paper. Look, it can't really. So you always want to, start very light. That erases so much better. once it damaged the surface of the paper, it's really hard to erase. And shading, this is the fun part of drawing, you know, like this is what it's all about here. Now it seems like everybody that's supposed to be in the class is there, but make sure you're listening. And when the class started, I mentioned that some of you are missing grades. You need to get caught up in all your grades, even if they're late. If you fell behind with the anatomy, I posted my pictures. You can use them as a reference and finish it. And you can,
Sir, were we supposed to post the anatomy pictures anywhere specifically, or just on our blog?
just on your blog, yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm good.
Yeah, because and you should be able to see your grades already. I've been posting grades. I don't know how. Can you guys see them? I'm sure you should be able to see them.
Yeah.
And if you think I've overlooked something, let me know and we'll get it fixed. But yeah, you don't want to fall behind.
So I have a question.
Okay.
How many grades have you done? Because on mine it says 3.
You have 3 grades or just 3 grades?
Like I have 3. Like how many have you graded so far? Because on my blackboard it says you graded
What's
3 assignments.
are you? What's your? I don't know if I can ask you this because grades are supposed to be private. But do you think you have your full credit that you should?
I think so, yeah. I'm just wondering if I'm like behind or anything, but I don't think so. I'm just making sure.
I think there's more. I think you are missing 1 grade, but because you had not registered for the class or something. But
I caught up with it.
if
The
I
skeleton.
if I don't put a grade, it doesn't. If I don't put a number in the grade book, it doesn't affect it. If it's just blank, which I think it's in your case, it shouldn't affect the grade. That's the case, right? You came in late or something, or you registered later.
Oh no, I think I'm good, sir. The three views of the skeleton, it says I got like a 96, so I think you graded it. So
Yeah, I think
I think I'm good.
yeah.
Okay.
So you see that, it just has a nice feeling to it. How much time do I have? Like 20 minutes. Should be enough time to finish this. Now I've been kind of making plans to uh, start really becoming hybrid and bringing some of you guys to the studio. If you can email me, like if you're, I don't want to force anybody to, you guys don't feel safe yet, but I want everybody to enjoy drawing. And send me an email if you're like ready to come back. And if you're not, send me an email like, you know what, sir, still don't feel comfortable. Uh, just so I get a, get a feel for how you're feeling. So now this here, I like to do this kind of drawing on the side here. Do a sphere. Just to explain what my thought process is here. So what I've done right now is in this drawing of the sphere, see at this, what you see here on the sphere, like I grouped the form shadow and the caption, same thing I did here. And if you remember from the notes, you can take out those notes and you're looking at them as I'm shading and as you start to shade. There's an area there in the shadow shape that is right along the edge of the form shadow that is called the turning. And the turning is where the form turns into the light or turns away from the light. And this is going to be your darkest, some of your darkest value. So this is what I'm going to add next. See that? And this is and this edge, so this makes the edge of the form shadow here. And the edge is soft. You can see this is form shadow, so the edge is soft as opposed to the sharpness of the cast shadow. And that already starts to emphasize or suggest that there is a reflected light. And these drawings, they have minimal detail on the light mass. Again, these drawings are to train art students into seeing this, this grouping of shadows and lights. I want to blend this. And so that's what I'm going to do here. And remember to emphasize the roundness or the cylindrical quality. You want to go across the form. You want to do this, like you want to imagine like, this here is the direction of the light, so this arrow here. So the strokes have to be parallel to the light source here to help in making it more round, making it look more round. That's what I'm going to do here. If you do it like this, you're going to flatten it out. So you want to go across the form. And right as on this edge where the warm shadow comes into the light. See, there it starts to become more 3D. You see this dimple here. This edge is sharper because that's cast. And this is form shadow on this side. And all this observation to detail makes for interesting drawing, that contrast of soft edges and harder edges. And here you see it really clear, that turning here. And of course I have to go back in with the eraser. To soften it. So here you see also the distinction, this edge is soft and then this is hard. I'm just re-emphasizing that turning. That's all I'm doing right now. Trying to blend it into shadow shape. But see, like in the turning, depending on the surface that it falls on, see, like up here, because the cylindrical quality of the arm is more dominant, it's rounder than in on the knuckles because they're more angular. You see the turning as sharper. So anytime it approaches the knuckles or some type of bony structure, it'll be sharper. And see how there, as it's developing, starts to make it more round. See that? So what I've done there, that is the turning. And then another part that is that becomes shadow mask is the dark accent, like right here. One thing also that these drawings do very well is emphasize the idea that what you have in the shadows is loss of clarity. You know, like you turn off the lights there in your rooms, you still have the same objects as when the lights were on. It's just that they're less clear, you can't see them. And as artists, you know, you want to pull the eye of the viewer towards the light. And in these drawings, you see like all the shadows are, all the objects, all the forms in the shadow are simplified because you have loss of clarity. Now these don't have a lot of these, you know, they were training the artist along that path, but the same loss of clarity is, that you have in the shadow, you also have that simplification of the light mass. See there, like that's already starting to look 3D-ish here. That's what I'm gonna add now. I'm gonna look for those dark accents here. You see how much form that'll give us here. And so see this value that looked dark now becomes the reflected light. The light is part of the shadow mask. See, all of this is and here I forgot to do the turning on this form. I'll do it right now. Here that I'm doing is the dark accent. It's like this part here. And what I'm doing here is a turning that I forgot to do. So it went from very flat to now it's starting to look round. And then here there's another dark accent here. Right at the intersection of these two fingers. And then this part becomes cast shadow here. And in regards to the light mask, I mean, there's more. I don't know if I'll get to finish this, but I mean, there's more of these dark accents here. I'll emphasize the sharpness here of the cast shadow here. to the nail. Now, in regards to the light mask, the only detail you have or value is what is called the dark lights, which is this value right there next to the turning. It's just that, but that's what you have here. So I'm gonna put it in right now. And it should make it. It needs a little bit more blendy, but this should be enough to get you started on the drawings that I'm going to assign. This is like I'm gonna venture here onto the shadow mask just to blend this a little bit more. So here I'm gonna emphasize the sharpness of the cast shadow. But see, that should give you a good idea of how to go about this. I mean, I can keep blending here But these are the steps you want to take into this method of drawing. And then also on, like right along the edge here, you have like on the sphere, you have the turning, the reflected light, and then it gets a little bit darker as it goes away. Not as dark as the turning, but as it's going away from the viewer. So you see what I did here? This, you want to put a little bit of that. So that kind of completes it, gives it more complete look to it. So we're starting off simple, with a hand, a foot, and then we'll progress on to the whole figure. Using the brush to work it out a little bit. But you see how nicely illuminated it looks? And it was flat shape, flat shadow shape. And then as we modeled it, we bring it more into the three dimensions. And one thing also that I want to emphasize is like on the notes, I had these areas of value on the sphere. You want to make sure you get into the understanding that these values, they wrap around. So we're taking the analysis of value a little bit further. It doesn't mean that the lightest value is going to be right on the edge here. This edge will also have some shading to it. That way it'll help in getting that effect of turning. But I'll go more into detail on another drawing. But right now you want to get into the idea of like thinking about the shadow shape, the turning, gas shadow, form shadow. So that's it for today. Now for homework, you have to take two of those drawings that I posted and finish them up to this level and document your process as I was demonstrating. And we'll critique them on Wednesday, and I'll do another drawing. Just so to re-emphasize this method. And I think I posted 3 or 4 of these, but I just picked 2 of them, and spend time, doing the envelope, blocking it in, all these steps, but take your time with them, make it as precise as you can. You guys have any questions? You got
Can
this?
you, oh, I have a question, sir.
Okay.
Can we show you our work and you let us know what you think?
Yeah, we can do that. I'm not gonna grade right now because it's fun to draw, but it kind of wears me out. I was working on another drawing all day.
Oh,
This big drawing of a hawk. But yeah, you can show me your. If you want some feedback right now, I can.
okay.
So let me switch. Let me stop the recording.